Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to another video. So today we're talking a little bit about Khans of Tarkir, which is coming as a full set to Arena next week. So for those who don't know, Khans is a set from 2014, which was released in paper back then. Very popular set, generally considered to be one of the better sets of recent times. So it is Pioneer legal, but obviously hasn't been an Explorer up until now. So the entire set is coming to Arena next week, and so will have an impact on Explorer, potentially turning it more into looking like Pioneer with some of the more powerful cards from that set making an impact in the format. So I'm just going to talk through the top 10 cards that I think will have an impact in Explorer. And, this is a lot easier to do than most of my other top 10s because we already know the cards which see play in Pioneer. So it's kind of just a rough extrapolation. It is worth saying that this set is now 9 years old and Magic has changed quite a lot in that time. So there aren't a huge number of cards, that are going to make a big impact. The Pioneer and Explorer decks are kind of overrepresented in cards from more recent times, but yeah, this is still an exciting moment because this is a great set and it will have quite a bit of an impact in the format. So just before I go on to the top 10 list, it is worth just saying a quick word about fetch lands. So fetch lands are in Khans of Tarkir, so these allied coloured fetch lands. So pay 1 life, sacrifice it, and search your library for a plains or island card, for example, on Flooded Strand. So these are generally considered one of the best land cycles of all time. They're all banned in Pioneer. It was worth keeping an eye out yesterday in the banned and restricted announcement, just in case Wizards decided to go a bit rogue and put them back into those formats. But now we know about that there's going to be a new format on Arena called Timeless, where these will be legal. So they are coming to Arena, but they won't be legal in Explorer. But just worth noting that those will be in the format. So, with that small caveat out the way, we can now move on to our top 10. And the first one I want to talk about is the Charm cycle. So, I've actually got all 5 of these listed on here. So, we have Absan Charm, Jeskai Charm, Mardu Charm, Sultai Charm, and Tima Charm. So, these are all named after the clans or the color combinations in Khans of Tarkir. It is a wedge set, so there's a lot of 3 color combinations of cards. So there's a charm cycle for each. They follow the successful Ravnica charm cycle, and there have been other multicolored sets which have kind of done this kind of spell which has 2 or 3 different modes. So yeah, they're generally considered very good. It is worth just saying none of them see particular play in Pioneer at the moment on their own, but their versatility means that they're always in consideration. I think that ability to just pick between 3 different modes and kind of choose the one which is most valuable to you at that time is always worth considering. I mean, of the kind of 5, the 2 most powerful probably are Absan Charm, which is the one I've got up here. So exiling a creature with power 3 or greater, drawing 2 cards and losing 2 life, or distributing 2+1/+1 counters is Absan Charm. And Jeskai Charm, you choose one to either put a creature on top of its owner's library, deal 4 damage to an opponent or planeswalker, or give all creatures you control +1/+1 and lifelink. I think those are generally the best 2. Again, with kind of power creep and all of the rest of it, these have to a certain extent been overwritten by better spells, but there is nothing that can beat that kind of versatility. So that is just worth keeping an eye on. And there may be decks which kind of rise up or fall down in the format, which are those particular colours, and then they're always worth consideration in the same way that in Pioneer, Boros Burn, when it's good, often runs Boros Charm from Ravnica. So worth keeping an eye on these, even if they are not particularly in vogue at the moment. So those are our number 10. So a little bit of a cheat there because I've got all 5. But there we are. So number 9 is Ghost Fireblade. So this is a 1 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. It has an equip cost of 3, and Ghost Fireblade's equip ability costs 2 less to activate if it targets a colorless creature. So colorless decks have always existed at the fringes of the format. We played one with the kind of Zendikar artifact that gives all of your colorless creatures +2/+2 and doubles all your colorless mana. They're a bit janky, but there's something worth paying attention to there. Now, obviously, Khan is now gone in Pioneer and Explorer, so it is worth paying attention to colorless decks again, both because one, they won't be able to run Khan, but also that Khan itself won't be able to shut off the artifacts that you're playing. So artifact decks may become a bit more of a thing in the format, so that is worth keeping an eye on. And powerful one mana equipment are always worth paying attention to. We do live in an era of hammer time and things like that, and this is if you are targeting a colorless creature, this is a very cheap kind of pump. One to cast and one to activate is pretty much as good as it gets. It may have been outclassed by things like Shadow Spear and Colossus Hammer, and maybe it's just not what those kind of decks are wanting to play now. But good card, and we'll potentially see some play. Number 8, we have Deflecting Palm. So this is a 2-mana instant, red and white. It says the next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, Deflecting Palm deals that much damage to that source's controller. So this is a good way of breaking aggro mirrors. It used to be a staple of certain aggro strategies in the formats. That kind of Boros, go wide and attack and do damage kind of strategy. Deflecting Palm's very good in that, just because it allows you to get ahead of the opponent if they're trying to do a similar thing. Suddenly you're reversing a whole load of damage onto them. They've tapped out and you potentially winning the game. Obviously, that artwork is also horrendous. If you just take a moment to look at that, that looks pretty painful. So Boros Burn is still a strategy you were waiting for in Explorer. Not hugely popular in Pioneer either at the moment, but when we get Boros Charm, this is certainly a potential consideration for a sideboard card, just kind of turning round that aggro strategy and kind of using it against your opponent. So that is Deflecting Palm. Number 7, we have Murderous Cut. So this is our first example of Delve, and breaking news to those who don't know, Delve spells are good. So Delve is an ability where essentially each card you exile from your graveyard while casting the spell pays for 1. So essentially, with something like Murderous Cut, yes, theoretically it costs 4 and a black, but if you exile 4 cards from your graveyard, it actually only costs 1 black. So they are once again of the kind of timeless and long broken tradition of just cheating on mana cost. So realistically, what's happening most of the time is you're paying black for a Murderous Cut and you're destroying a creature. So this is weaker than many of its blue counterparts. The blue Delve spells are really where the action is, but you can never discount 1 mana unconditional removal in a deck that perhaps isn't running any other Delve spells, doesn't really have a huge amount to do with its graveyard. Suddenly a one mana removal spell is incredibly powerful. So that is worth keeping an eye on, and it is an uncommon as well, which is nice. So number 6 is one of my favorite all-time cards. I just love this card. I love I just everything about it. The Mantis Rider. So this is blue, red, white for a 3/3 with flying, vigilance, and haste. Very simple, very clear. It's keyword soup, and I love it. So yeah, Mantis Rider is a staple of 5-color human decks since forever. That kind of that ability to kind of just play those lands which add for any mana. If you're running a particular creature type, so Cavern of Souls is the most recent example, but the kind of unclaimed territory, secluded courtyard kind of ability is just very powerful. That ability to kind of play a turn 2 werewolf pack leader for green and then turn 3 use the same lands to cast a Mantis Rider. There is something very satisfying about that. And obviously, Cavern of Souls in the format does help strategies like this. Not only does it help fix your mana even more, but also gets around counter spells and things like that. So that is Mantis Rider, a very good card. Looking forward to kind of closing out a few games using this in 5-color humans. So moving on to number 5, we have Stubborn Denial. So this is a 1-mana instant that says counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1, and it has Ferocious. So if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, counter that spell instead. The team have no patience for subtlety. So this doesn't see a huge amount of Pioneer play at the moment, certainly as compared to it used to, but it's still very useful in the right deck, and I think we'll see at least some sideboard play in Explorer. That kind of almost 4 spike ability. the ability to counter something unless its controller pays 1 always sounds quite weak, because it's just like, oh, they can just pay the 1. But so many decks these days are trying to play things on curve. We've seen from things like Voldalian Hexcatcher in the Merfolk deck that ability to just kind of stop the opponent unless they often just won't have the 1 mana to pay. And often this may be just a 1 mana negate that can counter any non-creature spell for 1 mana if you have a creature with power 4 or greater. So always worth paying attention to. Potential sideboard all-star. One of the most powerful negate effects that has been printed in recent times. So that is Stubborn Denial at number 5. Number 4, we have Blood-Soaked Champion. So this is a 1 mana 2/1 human warrior that can't block, and it has Raid. So you can activate it if you've attacked with a creature this turn, and it's 1 and a black to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. So for those who remember the kind of early days of Pioneer before Explorer was a thing, mono black aggro used to be the deck in Pioneer, and this was its 1 drop of choice. This coming to Explorer is very welcome. It probably will see some play in some mono black decks. I'm looking forward to playing this. It has been a lot worse, that particular archetype, since Smuggler's Copter went away. We know now that Smuggler's Copter is coming back to Pioneer. Now, this allows me to take the opportunity to complain about the fact that apparently it's not coming to Explorer yet, despite it already having been on Arena once. They decided to take it away and not put it back for when this unban came for Smuggler's Copter. So we won't be able to do that straight away in Explorer, but we can but hope that it won't be too long away until Smuggler's Copter comes to the format, maybe in Pioneer Masters or something like that. But this is still a good 1-drop. It's relatively easy to reanimate, particularly in a deck that's kind of doing the aggro thing. So I like Blood-Soaked Champion a lot. Number 3 is Jara Ascendency. So this is blue, red, white for an enchantment. That whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, and untap those creatures. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So entire archetypes have been built around this card. That ability to kind of use mana dorks to cast spells, untap them all, grow them, cast more spells. It creates a number of kind of pseudo-infinite loops that allow you to win the game. So the kind of Ascendancy decks have been popular in Pioneer, so I am kind of looking forward to seeing if it can make a splash in Explorer. It's a little out of favour at the moment, but always worth paying attention to, and certainly one of the most powerful potential cards. Has a huge amount of potential, this, just because, non-creature spells, making creatures bigger, untapping them, kind of cycling, drawing through cards. It's always going to be a powerful effect, and it's just about finding the right shell to build around it. Classic Ascendancy is still missing a few pieces from Explorer, so we don't have like Sylvan Caryatid, one of the most important mana dorks in the deck yet. But yeah, Jara Ascendency, very, very powerful card. And so we move on to our number 2. Unsurprisingly, and you can probably guess what number 1 is if you know the set at all. So this is another Delve spell, and blue Delve spells are the most broken of the Delve spells. So Dig Through Time is 8 mana, although no, it isn't, for an instant with Delve. So again, you can exile a card from your graveyard to pay for 1, and just eventually kind of bring this down to costing blue. And you look at the top 7 cards of your library, you put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So incredibly powerful card filtering, card selection, and auto include in many control decks. Dimir Control has certainly been playing this as a staple. Lotus Field Combo has a couple of copies of this, that kind of hidden strings deck that sees play in Pioneer. So this is competing with Memory Deluge now, and Memory Deluge is very powerful. Let's not be wrong, but this still does have the power of costing 2 mana, and so we'll certainly see some play in the Explorer format once it is available. And so that brings us to our number 1, which is Treasure Cruise. Shocking to all of you, I know, but turns out Ancestral Recall is actually quite good. So this is 7 and a blue, for a Delve sorcery. And you draw 3 cards. So often you will be playing blue to draw 3 cards, which is an ability which has quite a lot of pedigree in Magic. And it basically completes Is It Phoenix and Explorer. I'm incredibly excited to have that deck kind of fully powered up. So it will be one of the first things we're playing on the channel. And this is often in conversation for a potential banning, just because it is kind of so cheap and so powerful to kind of draw those three cards. Now, obviously, sometimes you will draw it when you have kind of an empty library and you don't want two of them in your opening hand. That's pretty tragic. But yeah, that kind of ability to create what is essentially an ancestral recall is, funnily enough, very very powerful. And it's just worth noting that this is the number one most powerful card as far as I can see from Khans of Tarkir, and it is a common. And it's pretty unusual for a common card to be a number one in one of these lists, so that is quite welcome. I don't think they quite knew what they were doing when they designed it, otherwise they would never have made it common, but they did, and so now it is, and that's very good. So that is our top 10 Khans of Tarkir cards. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you know the set at all, let me know if there are other cards you're excited to see come to Arena. If you don't know the set, let me know what you think of any of the cards we've talked about today. Take a look at the full spoiler for cards, which is available on all good Magic the Gathering websites. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. Hit those like and subscribe buttons as ever. There's going to be lots of exciting content coming out with Khans of Tarkir very soon, and I will see you next time.